7 flying ants shot up from the blackened ground the moment the helicopter came into range. Jongin raised one hand. 7 flame spears streaked across the sky like thrown javelins and found their marks. The ants plummeted, wings scorched useless. He pumped his fist, then stopped. There was nothing to celebrate yet. Japanese teams are going in now, Dongwook relayed from his earpiece. As if on cue, a chain of explosions erupted across the island from multiple directions at once. The 4th extermination mission had begun. Below them, thousands of ants poured from the cave entrance, wide as a highway tunnel, and split into 4 columns, heading in each cardinal direction. Taegu watched from the window with a grimace. Seriously, they're really creepy. The procession finally thinned out and ended, leaving only the dark mouth of the cave. Somewhere at the bottom of it, the Queen. The strike squad had one objective. Dongwook gathered his team, including the hesitating cameraman, into a huddle. After several hundred simulations, the Japanese hunters determined they can buy us an hour. We have that long to eliminate the Queen by any means necessary. He didn't say what happened if they failed. No evacuation option this time. The team held his gaze one by one and nodded. These are the best teammates I could have hoped for. Let's go. 7 people jumped. 10 minutes since the Koreans had entered. Ryuji had just given the order to begin withdrawal when his communications officer raised a hand. Team 3 hasn't reported in for a while, sir. Ryuji calculated the distance, 10 minutes away. Team 3 had been deployed near the cave entrance. Japan's best, assigned to the most critical location. He couldn't leave them. Let's go find them. What he found, he stared at for a long time without speaking. 5 colleagues, all headless. No ant corpses, no signs of struggle. The heads had not been cut, they had been ripped. Whatever did this, there had been only one of it. He grabbed the communicator. Where is the Queen? The satellite, the manner-detecting orbital camera shared only between the United States, Japan, and China, confirmed she had not left her den. The Korean team was entering it right now. Ryuji's blood ran cold. This was not the Queen's work. Give the withdrawal order. Every Japanese hunter off the island. Now. As his team moved, something surfaced from the back of his mind. 4 months ago, the Queen's mana output had dropped to less than half without explanation. The researchers had predicted her death several times and been wrong each time. She recovered over the course of a month. Nobody had explained it. Ryuji had filed it away as an anomaly. He understood now that the Queen had been channeling that mana into something new, something that had been on this island the whole time, waiting. Jinwoo crossed the finish line of his morning run and heard the familiar chime. Total distance run. Daily quest complete. He had run this route so many times, it barely registered as effort. He opened his stats window, invested 2 new ability points in agility and 1 in strength, and looked at the result with quiet satisfaction. Stats: Strength 219, Stamina 200, Agility 230, Intelligence 250, Perception 200. Almost everything ending in 0. He closed the window and noticed the unusual quiet in the neighborhood. He checked his phone. The Korea-Japan raid. Everyone in Korea was watching. His footsteps quickened on the way home. The ant cave had the layout of a cave-type dungeon, but no glowing stones. Jongin kept a small flame burning in his palm as he led the column forward, the others close behind. Yunho had his eyes of a beast active. Haein walked in silence, hand already on her sword hilt. "It's quiet," Jongin said. Dongwook nodded. Then Jongin stopped. Over there. Ant eggs covered every surface as far as they could see. Hundreds of them, black larvae curling inside translucent shells. The stale, mouldy smell was overwhelming. Jongin wrinkled his nose. "Should I burn them all?" Dongwook almost laughed. "I'd love to, but there's no time. If the Queen died, these eggs meant nothing." The cameraman was picking his way around a pile of hatched shells when he stopped dead. "Ooh." Every hunter turned to look. He flushed, then pointed into a corner. 1 hatched shell sat apart from the others. Most eggs were bicycle wheel-sized. This one was large enough that a fully grown ant, or something much larger, could have emerged from it. Yunho stared at it with an expression he kept carefully neutral. He put a hand on Byunggu's back. "We just have to get rid of the Queen. Don't worry about anything else." He took one last look at the shell before turning away. Worker ants appeared to defend the nursery. The hunters dispatched them in less than a minute and pressed on. The queen's den was vast and smelled of old blood. The queen is at the very back, Yunho reported. 8 guards in front of her. Dongwook turned to Haein. Will you take the guards while I deal with the queen? Leave it to me. Jongin floated a sphere of light to the ceiling and lit up the entire chamber at once. The cameraman breathed. I've been on quite a few raids as an A-rank hunter, but this is the first time I've seen light magic this impressive. His earpiece told him the broadcast ratings had just cleared 80%. He stepped forward for a better angle, and a hand seized his shoulder with the force of a closing vice. Byunggu's expression was nothing like the man who had been joking in the helicopter. There's an S-rank dungeon boss in here. Stay behind me. The real battle starts now. The cameraman scurried back without a word. Dongwook roared, and the guards rushed him. Haein drove her sword into the ground with both hands and activated provocation vibration. Waves of magic power pulsed outward through the stone, and every guard charging at Dongwook lurched, pivoted, and rushed Haein instead as if compelled. Dongwook let them pass and planted himself in the queen's path. You're mine. The queen fought with everything she had. Her acid spray hit wide. Byunggu healed them through it without pausing. Yunho leaped onto her back and ripped away one saw-like mandible with his bare hands. She was almost done, and then she reared her head back and let out a cry that was wrong in a way none of them could immediately name. Not a roar, not a death cry. A call, high, directional, aimed at something far away. Yunho's eyes went cold. Shut her up! Haein was already airborne. A single clean arc of her sword. The queen's head landed before Haein did. The cameraman raised both hands and burst into tears. 4 years. Dongwook gave a thumbs up, panting. Only Yunho stood still, trembling, a dread rising from somewhere in his gut that had no rational explanation. Then Dongwook checked his wristwatch and looked up with a stunned and furious expression. The Japanese left the island. All the ants are headed this way. Evacuate now. The team erupted. Jongin spat. Those sons of bitches. Dongwook pushed them toward the exit, voice as level as he could keep it. Japan has cut off communications. Move. They didn't make it far. Yunho halted at the front of the column. His body had started to shake. A shadow was approaching through the entrance tunnel, slow, quiet, with the patience of something that knew it did not need to hurry. He remembered the egg. No way. Haein's hand moved to her hilt. I can't sense its presence, not even faintly. She had felt this only once before, from Jinwoo, in the gymnasium. The memory of his restrained enormous power surfaced unbidden, and the thought of something at that level, hostile, in this space, made it hard to breathe. The winged ant entered the queen's den and looked at the body on the floor. It raised its head and roared. The sound dropped the cameraman, then Byunggu, then the others, to their knees before the first second was done. When it ended, the only person still standing was Haein, and her legs were shaking. The ant turned its attention to them. Haein's fingers reached for her hilt, and the ant was already in front of her. Kapow! She hit the wall and crumpled. One punch. Dongwook locked both arms around the creature from behind, the grip he used to uproot trees, and squeezed. The ant flexed. Both arms fell to the ground, severed at the shoulder. Yunho transformed, white fur erupting across his body, and lunged. The ant vanished and reappeared beside Jongin, slashing him across the torso. Taegu knocked an arrow from 5 paces away. There's no way I'll miss. He watched it fly. The ant plucked it out of the air and snapped it in half. Byunggu activated camouflage and went motionless in the shadow of a rocky outcrop, his one combat skill. As long as he stayed still, he was invisible, and he could pour healing magic into the others from there. Dongwook's arms regenerated. Jongin pulled himself up. The cycle continued. But the ant sensed something was wrong. It grabbed Dongwook by the legs, inverted him, and began methodically breaking his bones one by one, using the tank as bait to force the healer to reveal himself. Byunggu gritted his teeth and kept casting. He had no other choice. Dongwook would die if he stopped. The ant's gaze found him anyway. Byunggu, Yunho cried out. Too late. A black arm punched through Byunggu's stomach from behind and emerged from the other side. He looked down at it, then up at Yunho, with a calm that was harder to bear than any scream. Yunho, run! The ant bit off his head, Then, worse than anything that had come before, it replicated Byunggu's voice perfectly and repeated his last words back at them, over and over. Run, run. When it finally stopped, it fixed its gaze on Yoonho's neck and spoke Korean. Broken, stilted, but Korean. You are weak. Our queen was killed. I killed your soldiers, but it's not enough. Who is your king? Yoonho's mind raced. The Japanese team, their strongest. Outside. The ant lifted its head, waited, spoke with quiet satisfaction. There is a strong one. It dropped Yoonho and was gone. About a year before the Allied raid, the Ant Queen had reached a decision. The island could no longer sustain her colony. They needed a new empire on the mainland. But the powerful humans would be a problem. She needed a singular weapon, not an army, but one soldier designed specifically to kill powerful humans. It took half a year to create. Using her own mana and everything she had stored, she produced a creature born with predation, the ability to absorb the magic power and knowledge of whatever it consumed. She let it prey on its own kind once it understood what it was capable of. She watched it surpass her in strength and prepared the armies it would lead. Then the humans came, and her creation was elsewhere, and she died. It returned to find her body. Fury, one of the dying humans, asked, "What are you?" The question stayed with it. It had been the Queen's finest soldier, but what was it now that the Queen was dead? There was only one word for that role: king. It ate the last human standing. Then it sensed an enormous energy rolling from the direction of the Queen's den. Another king? It turned toward its castle. Ryuji cut down the last ant in his path, straightened up, and started toward the coast. Then something appeared before him that he hadn't sensed approaching at all. He stopped his colleagues from moving in. "I'll handle this." He drew his sword carefully. "Ant, you have quite a presence." The ant opened its mouth. "You're the king?" Ryuji was startled, then amused. He even found it flattering. "Yeah, I'm the king." The temperature dropped. He had experienced this sensation precisely once before. Jinwoo sung. His eyes went wide, and Ryuji's head hit the ground before the rest of him did. President Matsumoto's hands were shaking. The recording played back, Ryuji's controlled voice, right up until it wasn't, and then silence. The satellite confirmed the ant's signal had vanished. Perfect control over its own mana output, invisible to every detection system they had. The 4-month-old mana drop made sense now. The Queen had hidden this thing's creation from them entirely. Japan had paid with 10 S-rank hunters, including their strongest, for a single blind spot. In the control room, someone called out, "Found it! Queen's Den." Matsumoto looked at the monitor. The beast signal had reappeared, and in front of it, a new signal, on par with the creature, surrounded by hundreds of tiny sparks. "Pull up the Korean broadcast." A man facing an ant filled the screen. A bead of sweat dripped down Matsumoto's jaw. That man, is he controlling all those lights? The cameraman could no longer feel his right arm. His mana had bottomed out and his reinforcement with it. He was on his knees, thinking about his father. Their last conversation had been whether the old man had eaten dinner, and the mandibles of the winged ant were descending toward his head when something punched through its skull from behind with a crack and fluid sprayed his face. A warrior in black armor stood over the body. Then a man stepped through and said, "Open your mouth." The cameraman swallowed the liquid before he understood what was happening. His arm worked again. He looked at the man's face and recognition arrived like a blow. Jinwoo sung. Not on the roster. Here anyway. Jinwoo had placed a shadow soldier in President Baek's shadow the day he met the Korean team members in the Hunters Association gymnasium. The foresight had paid off. He assessed the den quickly, gave Iron a nod, and stepped back. Iron lumbered to the center of the room, puffed up his chest, and roared. Iron is using skill epic taunt. Every ant in the vicinity pivoted and rushed at Iron simultaneously. He had one more card to play. "Come forth, Fang." The last shadow emerged alone. Fang looked around and scratched the back of his head as if he felt awkward at being summoned all by himself. Jinwoo held out the sphere of avarice and spoke firmly. "Only target the ants. If so much as a spark touches any of the humans, I won't be summoning you ever again." Fang gave a confident nod, activated Song of Giants, his frame swelling to monstrous proportions, and unleashed a pillar of fire. "Form!" Even Jinwoo, who had seen this often enough, felt a flicker of surprise. His flames seemed to get bigger every time. Fang's level had been rising steadily. Perhaps that explained it. The hunters who had been watching the battle in tense silence had a rather different reaction. That's a minion? Taegu yelped, pointing. You're honestly telling me that's a minion? No one could answer him. Every mouth in the chamber was hanging open. From his look and the scale of his flames, Fang seemed less like a summoned soldier, and more like something that belonged on the other side of a boss door. Ants were incinerated by the dozen. Jinwoo drew the demon monarch's daggers. Their blades caught Jongin's sphere of light, and was gone. He cut down roughly half the ants before stopping. He looked at the black smoke rising from the corpses at his feet, and said, "Arise." The cameraman's blood went cold. Wind blew through a cavern that had no wind. Black hands erupted from the floor, hundreds of them, slamming down on the stone, dragging shapes upward. Ant forms, but made of darkness, solidifying into rows that stretched the length of the den. Yunho's mouth was hanging open. Those are all his minions? He turned to the cameraman and pointed. Follow that man closely. You'll witness something incredible. Jinwoo returned the demon monarch's daggers to his inventory. Don't leave a single enemy alive. Go. The shadow horde crashed into the ants like a wave. In the TV station, the director leaped to his feet. He had approved resuming the live broadcast. No delay, no safety net. The moment he saw what was on the feed, and he had no regrets. In the Hunters Association, President Go watched with a crushing grip on his couch armrest, a grin on his face that hadn't moved since Jinwoo appeared. That young man lied to me. 100 minions, he'd claimed. There were at least 300 down there. Go's grin didn't waver. In her apartment, Jinna heard cheering erupt from every floor of the building simultaneously, checked her phone, and went completely still. Jinwoo? The Ant King entered the Queen's den and saw Jinwoo. Human, the energy is strong in you. Ryuji's voice, deliberate. The Korean hunters flinched. Jinwoo did not. Are you the king of the humans? Jinwoo looked at him for a moment. To think a bug could talk. The ant's face twisted. It expanded to 1.5 times Jinwoo's height and roared directly into his face. Jinwoo didn't blink. A grin spread. You're finally starting to resemble a bug. He released his own mana. The first exchange was immediate. The ant's full-force punch snapped Jinwoo's head to the side. He absorbed it, dug in his heels, and answered with a blow that put the ant through the wall. The cavern shook. The Ant King had aimed to kill, and the human had not fallen. That was not possible. He switched to speed, his real specialty, shrank to normal size, claws extending into blades. Jinwoo read it instantly, pulled his daggers, and time slowed the way it always did for him at high velocity. They collided again and again, clang, 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 and the ant was growing desperate. Jinwoo was matching his speed and getting faster with each exchange, as if his muscles had been warming up all along. The Ant King began sliding backward, cracks spreading across his exoskeleton with each conceded step. In desperation, he shot a venom needle from close range, unavoidable, and felt the needle graze Jinwoo's cheek. Paralysis, venom, cone snail toxin distilled through predation, concentrated with magic power, lethal from the slightest scratch. The ant waited for Jinwoo to freeze. Jinwoo's left hand blocked the follow-up claw. The ant had a fraction of a second to wonder how he was still moving before the right fist connected and sent him skidding across the den. Ping. Detoxing is complete. Jinwoo noted in passing that he had sensed the ant's satisfaction when the needle landed, and its confusion when he moved, not through expression, but directly, from somewhere underneath the surface of things. He had first noticed something like it during the battle with the High Orcs, and assumed he had simply been reading their faces and gestures. But this ant was expressionless. Whatever the ability was, it wasn't visual. Perception stat, probably, raised high enough that it had unlocked something he had no name for yet. He filed it away and closed the distance. Skill, Fatal Strike has been upgraded to its ultimate version, Mutilation. 20 precise strikes through every crack in the exoskeleton. The ant's arm fell to the ground. It threw itself into the air on its wings, all pride abandoned, and Jinwoo raised his hand. Ruler's hand caught it from above like a fly swatter. The ant hit the floor, and Jinwoo walked toward it without hurrying. It tried to crawl. There, Jinwoo said. You're finally acting like an insect. He unleashed Mutilation at its back. You have defeated an enemy. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. He pumped his fist and heard Yunho call his name. One look at Haein told him everything. He crouched beside her and felt her life force, barely there, a thread. The system confirmed what he already knew. Healing potions cannot recover HP when it dips below 10% of your total HP. He stood. Could you please turn off the camera for a moment? The cameraman stared at him. If you don't turn it off, I'll break it. The head-mounted camera came off. Jinwoo carried Haein deeper into the cave. He stopped and cleared a space among the ant corpses. The cameraman gasped. Byunggu was there. Jinwoo had found him by the residual mana signature clinging to his body, distinguishing it from hundreds of magic beasts. Yunho turned away and closed his eyes. Jinwoo looked at the black smoke rising from Byunggu's body and sat with his refusal for a moment. He had never done this to a person. He would not turn an innocent human being into one of the undead. No decent person could. He held that principle, and then he looked at Haein's face, growing paler by the second. If Byunggu could choose, if he were here and understood what was being asked, he would make the same decision. Jinwoo was certain. Shadow extraction is possible. He took a slow breath and gave the command. Arise. The result was not what he expected.